Tom Patterson. Tom, how you doing?
I am happy to be here, at least electronically.
Excellent. I think that we have some potential people who might show up partway through our your and my time. So if someone suddenly appears, we'll just be surprised and it'll be great.
We'll roll with it.
I'm supposed to introduce myself to each guest. So I'm 𝗕𝗫𝗃𝗃. I'm a nerd who really likes AppSec, and I run 𝗕𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, a small online academy community and podcast dedicated to that topic. But I want to hear about you. Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Tom Patterson. I'm a multiple time attendee at the CFF in Davos each year, who unfortunately at the last second couldn't make it this year. So I'm sending all my best wishes to everyone that's able to participate in person. I've been dialed in since the early mornings of dawn this morning, and I've just been wowed by the talk that's been happening this year. It's another great year of progress from a security perspective, and happy to play a small part in that. Lifelong security guy. The last 7 years, I've been working with the White House on their national plan to emerge by the end of this decade in a stronger position relative to these advanced technologies like quantum and AI and 5G. From a policy perspective, a lot of progress has been made there. The end of last year, I joined Accenture to lead up Accenture's global quantum and space security businesses. And it was really the next step in that move towards a whole of world effort to try and harness these new technologies in a way that make the world a safer and more privacy enhanced version of itself. We learned a lot when we first rolled out the internet way back when, and the way we did it wasn't optimal from a security perspective. Now we have this opportunity to really leverage. You've seen with ChatGPT, seeing what AI is going to affect everything that we do. So we have a chance to actually do that with security as a positive intention. It's the same now going around quantum. It's maybe a step behind ChatGPT, but it in 2023 is going to just rock the world. We've already heard the CEO of IBM this morning at Davos talk about the fact that by the end of this year, IBM will have available in their cloud a 1,000-qubit computer that will be strong enough, as proposed by adversarial groups, to crack encryption today. So there's a real push towards, and again, why I joined Accenture. Accenture is able to work with most of the large, important organizations of the world to get them to start defending themselves against this coming quantum threat.
Oh my gosh, Tom, I did not hear that that happened this morning. So I'm very interested in watching the reruns of this because in my time zone, that was very early. Thank you very much for joining us, even if it's just virtually. I'm really happy to have you here. So I have
Well,
questions. You get to choose a question, but I think that we might have slightly more time. So that's great. But I wanted to talk about either cybersecurity trends that you think are coming for 2023 or that you hope are coming for 2023, or I have a bunch of questions or topics on the side, and we wanted to hear just your opinion on one or any of them if you decide. So how to
sure,
secure the
let's
supply
jump
chain.
on trends, Tanya.
Yeah.
There's been talked about at the top of the mountain today. I'm sure a lot of the other trends that are out there, certainly down on the 𝗕liche, there's been a lot of talk today around big changes that are coming from a technology perspective. How is 5G going to change the world? How is AI going to change the world? Let me talk for a minute about one thing that I see really popping in 2023, and that's the not just building of quantum computers, but the availability of quantum computers to the entire world. It's going to change the way people start to compute. It's a whole new way of looking at what kinds of questions should be asked, but also it opens up for adversaries the opportunity to decrypt all of our encryption. So all of our secrets that have been encrypted using the best of classical computers today. So think the entire financial sector, think everything that happens, all your secrets laid bare to anyone that has access to a quantum computer, which is now available online. That is going to change everything that we do. So there's a race underway now to try and add another layer of encryption to what we currently do, so that it will defeat these coming quantum computers. The good news is 5 or 6 years ago, the smartest people in the world started looking at this problem. They've now developed a series of standards. These can be implemented. There's this concept called crypto agility, because we're not quite sure what's going to work. So we want to move to a world where we can easily adjust our encryption to work with and defeat against these kinds of attacks that are coming. We know that they're coming from quantum computers. That is this big race that's happening in parallel to zero trust and in parallel to 5G and these other big issues that are out there, how to stop ransomware, all important issues of today. Quantum computing in 2023 has joined that front. And luckily, there's a lot of good news there in order to defend yourself against it.
Where have they published this information about how we can try to change the way we're doing encryption? Can we send our viewers?
It's been underway for a while, but it hasn't been front and center because it wasn't seen as today's problem. It was always tomorrow's problem. So there's a lot of information out there. National Bureau of Standards, NIST in the US is sort of the organizer of most of the ways to defend against this. But in European states, most of the countries have their own programs in place. And there is a whole burgeoning post-quantum encryption business coming up now. There's whole new companies that didn't exist a couple of years ago that are going to be really important to your defense going forward. It's just a fun time to get, yet another fun time to be in security. A lot of change, but this is one it's a good news story. We know the bad things are coming. There's even a thing called steal now, decrypt later, where adversaries are stealing stuff that they can't decrypt today, knowing that soon they'll have a quantum computer access and they'll be able to decrypt it. So there's this race going on, but even though we know the bad, we also know that the good's been working for about 4 or 5 years. The paper that I worked on, the report I worked on at the White House called the National Cyber Moonshot, talked extensively about this. You can download it from the White House or from Department of Homeland Security, National Cyber Moonshot. And you'll see in there what we talk about the coming quantum threat. And then look at what companies like Accenture are doing to help companies defend today against this threat that's here for, in some instances today, but it's going to be widespread coming soon.
Tom, so let's say I'm very excited about what you've been just telling me about, because I am. Where could I go read up more about this or learn about it more? Because it feels like it's really bleeding edge sort of thing. And
yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the reasons I joined Accenture, so we can get around to the most important organizations first and get them started. What we do is we start with this strategy phase to answer sort of the key questions. What is this quantum computing threat that I'm hearing about? How does it relate to me? Where do I find out, what it's going to cost to defend it? How long will it take for us to defend against it? What's our best path and architecture going forward? These are the same questions we get over and over again. And I'd imagine people listening to this for the first time are having these same kinds of questions. So we work with our clients around the world to help do these strategy engagements to help them get to that point. And then some of these clients are now ready to start to move and start to implement these defenses and get going even faster. Lots of information can be found again at NIST, searching for post-quantum, with Accenture searching for post-quantum security or quantum security. But this is something where it definitely pays to learn up. Back in the 60s, when quantum physics was first being discussed, very famously, Albert Einstein looked at it and said, "This is spooky." And so a lot of people have said, wow, well, if it's too spooky for Einstein, I've just got no chance. But in reality, this is something that will affect everybody. It's that the attacks are on our classical computing infrastructure. Our defenses, luckily, are with classical computing infrastructure. We just need a different way to do it. It turns out all of our encryption is pretty much based on this concept of factoring, where you take 2 prime numbers and multiply them together to a really big number. That's easy to do. But taking that really big number and figuring out which 2 prime numbers came is really hard to do. That's what encryption boils down to. What turns out is a quantum computer can do that in a millisecond. It just happens, as opposed to a classical computer, which would take millions or billions of years. So it's a whole different way we need to encrypt our data. We still need encryption, but it needs to be these new ways. NIST is championing the best thinking on how to come up with what those ways are. There's companies already building that into their products and services. And then again, what we're advocating here at Accenture is that every key organization start to do a re-inventory of where their risks are relative to this quantum threat and what they should do about it and when they should start, which in many cases is today.
That's amazing, Tom. This is really exciting. And thank you for giving us places where we can go and learn more, because there's only so much that you can say in 7 minutes. Did you have, so we just have 1 minute left. Did you have a closing thought or maybe something inspirational or something that you wanted to add before I hand this over to Raj?
Yeah, and thanks for that, because this is a positive story. There's so many things that I've worked on in security. Many of us have worked on over the years where it's like, man, this is horrible. We know exactly what they're doing and how we're going to stop this. And there are lots of today's problems that are still in that category. Quantum computing is not one of those. It is worth the time for smart cyber folks to learn what this means to them, to figure it out either on their own, take a class, work with a strategy company like Accenture, but start to ingest it. The threat is real. The countermeasures, the capabilities to defend yourself are equally real. And the only thing stopping is that spooky label from the 1960s. We've got to get past that and start to learn. Plus, there's this upside of quantum computing that if you do learn the defenses, you're automatically learning sort of the basic principles about entanglement and superposition in these things called qubits as opposed to bits. Whereas a bit can be on or off, a qubit can be anything at any time, all the time. And so think of how much more powerful a computer would be if it was based on something like that as its unit, as opposed to just a dumb on and off. And so it's life-changing how we're going to use quantum computing for good. I just want to make sure that we as a collective society are also defending ourselves against nefarious users that are going to use it against us. And with that, I will turn it back to you, but wish everybody to take a look at it, see where it works, where it affects them, and start to take some defensive actions today.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was awesome. I'm like, oh, I'm going to read up on this all afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, especially when you're in another continent. I really appreciate it. Thank you.